So buckle up, because today we're diving deep into a true cult classic.
Oh, okay.
Jack Frost.
Okay.
The 1997 slasher.
Yes.
That asked that age-old question.
Okay.
What if the snowman in your yard
Yeah.
was a bloodthirsty killer?
That's certainly one way to spice up the holidays.
You got that right.
Yeah.
You might be thinking, okay, killer snowman sounds like a recipe for some cheesy special effects and some campy humor.
Right.
And you wouldn't be entirely wrong.
Okay.
But trust me, this film has a lot more going on beneath the surface.
It's fascinating how a film with such a ridiculous premise and made on such a shoestring budget, only $500,000, managed to carve its way into cult film history.
That's exactly what we're going to unpack today.
Right.
Now, for those unfamiliar with Jack Frost, let me set the scene.
Okay.
Picture this. A snowy December night.
Right.
The quiet town of Snowman.
Got it.
And a prisoner transport van carrying the notorious serial killer Jack Frost to his execution.
Okay.
But as fate would have it, the van collides with, wait for it, a genetic research truck.
Talk about a recipe for disaster.
Oh, you have no idea.
Oh, wow.
The collision exposes Jack to these experimental chemicals.
Oh.
And instead of a straightforward demise, he undergoes this bizarre transformation, fusing with the snow itself.
Wow.
Everyone thinks he's gone, dissolved into this wintry landscape.
Right.
Well, almost everyone.
Okay.
Sheriff Sam Tyler, the man who originally put Jack behind bars.
Right.
He has this nagging feeling that something's not quite right.
He knows Jack Frost's threats of vengeance were more than just empty words. There's this underlying tension, a sense of foreboding.
Yeah.
That something wicked this way comes.
And boy, is he right.
Oh, no.
Soon, a string of gruesome murders start plaguing Snowman.
Okay.
But we're not talking your typical slasher fare here.
Right.
The deaths are creative, over the top, even darkly comical in a way.
Right.
That only a film about a killer snowman can pull off.
I can imagine.
One particularly memorable kill involves a teenager getting a fatal facial from a sled.
Oh, wow.
Propelled by our frosty friend.
It's this blend of horror and dark humor that really sets Jack Frost apart.
Yes.
And it's achieved on a surprisingly low budget.
Right.
Which adds another layer of fascination to the film.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Imagine trying to create a menacing, believable killer snowman with only $500,000.
It really is a testament to the filmmaker's ingenuity. Yeah. And let's be honest, their willingness to embrace those limitations.
It's like they said, okay, we have one snowman. Let's make it work.
Exactly.
They relied heavily on creative camera work.
Okay.
Clever editing.
Yeah.
And even a time-lapse sequence.
Really?
To give the illusion of movement.
Oh.
In fact, there's only one scene where the snowman actually seems to animate.
Oh.
And it's achieved through this ingenious stop-motion technique.
The "Look, Ma, I'm a Picasso" scene.
Yes.
As director Michael Cooney fondly calls it.
Exactly.
It's a testament to their resourcefulness and their ability to find creative solutions within the constraints of their budget.
Absolutely. And let's not forget the actor.
Oh, right.
Inside that snowman costume.
Oh, yeah.
Can you imagine the heat?
I can only imagine.
The limited visibility, the sheer awkwardness of trying to move around in that thing.
It must have been a challenging experience.
To say the least.
To say the least.
And speaking of challenges, one scene that really captures the film's chaotic production is the infamous carrot rape scene.
Oh, yes, that scene.
Involving actress Shannon Elizabeth.
Right.
It was originally intended as a brutal death scene.
Oh, wow.
But during filming, the snowman's carrot nose accidentally poked Elizabeth in the eye.
Oh, my goodness.
Talk about adding insult to injury, right?
Ouch.
But instead of reshooting, which they couldn't afford, they decided to edit the scene in a way that toned down the, shall we say, unintended suggestive imagery.
It's a perfect example of how limitations can sometimes lead to unexpected.
Yes.
And in this case, somewhat controversial result.
Exactly.
It adds to the film's overall sense of chaotic energy.
Absolutely. But the production woes didn't stop there.
Really?
The film's release was actually delayed.
Oh, wow.
Because the original distributor went bankrupt.
Thankfully, Apex Entertainment stepped in.
They did.
And brought Jack Frost to the world.
Yes.
Unwittingly unleashing a future cult classic.
Because here's the thing.
Okay.
Despite the critical panning, the low budget and the sometimes questionable special effects.
Right.
Jack Frost resonated with audiences.
Right. It did.
People loved it.
They did.
It became this midnight movie phenomenon.
There's a certain charm to its rough around the edges aesthetic.
Right.
It feels authentic.
Yes.
Raw, like a film made by people who genuinely love the horror genre.
Totally.
And weren't afraid to push boundaries.
It's like that friend who tells the best, albeit slightly gruesome campfire stories.
Yeah.
You know it's going to be over the top, maybe a little cheesy, but you're hooked nonetheless.
And that connection, that shared experience, is what fuels cult cinema.
It is.
It's about finding something that speaks to you on a personal level.
Totally.
Even if it's a film about a killer snowman with a penchant for carrot-themed violence.
Exactly.
You know, it's amazing how a film like Jack Frost, with all its quirks and imperfections, can spark such deep conversation.
It really goes to show that sometimes the most unassuming films have a lot more going on beneath the surface.
Yeah.
And Jack Frost is a prime example. Because believe it or not, buried under all the snowdrifts of cheesy effects and dark humor are some thought-provoking themes about revenge, justice, and even scientific hubris.
It's like those old fairy tales, you know, the ones that seem light and whimsical on the surface, but are actually packed with deeper meaning and moral lessons.
Exactly. And Jack Frost plays with those classic fairy tale tropes in a really interesting way.
Okay.
Let's start with the idea of revenge.
Right.
Jack, even in his human form, is consumed by it.
Right.
He vows to get even with Sheriff Tyler. And his transformation into this, monstrous snowman only amplifies that desire for vengeance.
What's fascinating here is how the film uses the snowman as a symbol.
Right.
On the one hand, you have this figure of childhood innocence.
Yeah.
Something playful, harmless.
Right.
But Jack Frost twists that image into something menacing, turning this symbol of winter joy into a relentless killing machine.
And it's not just the snowman itself.
Oh, okay.
The entire winter landscape becomes an extension of Jack's rage.
Wow.
The snow, which is usually associated with beauty and serenity, becomes this isolating, unforgiving force.
It's almost like nature itself is conspiring with Jack, aiding him in his quest for revenge.
Exactly.
And that creates a really unsettling atmosphere, playing on our primal fears of being trapped and isolated in a hostile environment.
Right. It taps into that classic horror trope of being hunted in a remote location.
Right.
But in this case, it's the setting itself, the snow and ice, that feels menacing.
Right.
It's a reminder that even the most beautiful landscapes can harbor danger.
And then there's the theme of justice.
Yeah.
Which gets really interesting when you consider Sheriff Tiller.
Okay.
He's the supposed hero of the story.
Right.
But he's not exactly a shining example of law enforcement. He's got a temper. He drinks a bit too much. And he's not above bending the rules to get what he wants.
He's a flawed hero, which makes his conflict with Jack Frost all the more complex.
Right.
It's not just this clear-cut battle between good and evil.
Yeah.
It's a clash between two damaged individuals, each seeking their own version of justice.
Which raises the question.
Yeah.
Can revenge ever truly be justice?
That's a great question.
Or does it simply perpetuate a cycle of violence and suffering?
That's a question that resonates throughout horror cinema.
It does.
Particularly in slasher films, where the killer is often driven by a need for retribution.
Right.
And in Jack Frost, there's this underlying sense that even if Jack is defeated, the town of Snowmountain and the people who survived his rampage will never truly be the same.
Right.
The trauma will linger, this chilling reminder of the consequences of unchecked vengeance.
And speaking of unchecked ambition, we can't overlook the element of scientific hubris that runs through the film.
Oh, absolutely.
The genetic research that inadvertently created Jack Frost was meant to be this grand solution.
Okay.
A way to preserve human DNA in case of a nuclear holocaust.
Oh, wow.
But as so often happens in horror, good intentions pave the road to hell.
It's that classic playing God trope.
Yes.
The scientists, in their quest to control life and death, end up unleashing a force they can't contain.
Right.
And it's interesting how the film places the scientific overreach against the backdrop of Christmas.
Right.
A time traditionally associated with joy, family, and hope.
It's like this film is suggesting that by tampering with the natural order, by trying to manipulate life itself, mankind risks corrupting even the most sacred of traditions.
It does.
And the corruption takes on a very literal and terrifying form in Jack Frost.
It does.
He's this twisted mockery of a beloved holiday figure.
Yeah.
A symbol of childhood innocence turned into a monstrous killing machine.
It's a brilliant subversion of expectations.
It is.
You think of snowmen, you think of winter wonderlands.
Happy holidays.
Yeah.
But Jack Frost forces us to confront the darker side of those images.
It does.
To acknowledge that even our most cherished traditions can be twisted and corrupted.
And that corruption isn't limited to just Christmas.
Right.
It extends to the very idea of scientific progress.
Okay.
The belief that we can control and manipulate nature without consequence.
Yeah.
The film reminds us that there's always a price to pay for such ambition.
Yeah.
And sometimes that price comes in the form of a vengeful, wisecracking snowman with a taste for blood.
It's a reminder that horror, at its best, can hold up a mirror to our own anxieties, our deepest fears about the world and the consequences of our actions.
And it can do so in a way that's both entertaining and thought-provoking.
Yes.
Jack Frost might be a low-budget slasher film with a killer snowman.
Right.
But it's also a film that asks some big questions about the nature of revenge.
It does.
Justice, and the limits of human ambition. It's a film that, despite its flaws, manages to be both chilling and hilarious.
Right.
Leaving you with a strange mix of laughter and unease.
And that's part of what makes it so fascinating.
Yes.
It's a film that defies easy categorization.
It does.
It's horror, it's comedy,
Yeah.
it's social commentary.
Yeah.
All wrapped up in a package of fake snow and carrot-based violence.
It's a film that challenges us to think about the things that we fear.
It does.
The stories we tell ourselves.
Right.
And the power of those stories to shape our understanding of the world.
So for those who haven't seen Jack Frost, what would you say is the one thing they should keep in mind going into it?
Oh, that's a good question.
What's the key to unlocking its unique appeal?
I'd say go in with an open mind and a sense of humor.
Okay.
Don't take it too seriously.
Yeah.
Embrace the absurdity.
Right.
Because at its heart, Jack Frost is a fun, over-the-top romp through the dark side of winter.
Yeah.
It's a film that celebrates the power of practical effects, the joy of B-movie mayhem, and the enduring appeal of a really, really bad pun.
And sometimes that's all you need for a truly memorable movie experience.
We've spent this deep dive exploring the icy depths of Jack Frost.
Yeah.
A film that on the surface might seem like just another cheesy slasher flick.
Right.
But as we've uncovered,
yes,
there's a lot more to this killer snowman than meets the eye.
It's been a wild ride, hasn't it?
It really has.
From that absurd premise to the shoestring budget production.
Yeah.
To those unforgettable and sometimes unintentionally hilarious death scenes.
And yet, despite all that, or maybe even because of it, Jack Frost has managed to carve out a special place in cult film history.
It has.
So as we approach the end of our deep dive, I want to shift our focus to the film's legacy.
Right.
Why, after all these years, does Jacking Off continue to resonate with audiences?
That's the beauty of cult films, isn't it?
It is.
They tap into something that goes beyond mainstream tastes.
Yeah.
They find their audience through word of mouth.
Yeah.
Shared enthusiasm, a love for the offbeat and unconventional.
It's like discovering a hidden gem.
Right.
A film that speaks to a specific sensibility, a shared sense of humor, or even just a fascination with the macabre.
And in the age of streaming, where niche content can thrive and communities can form around the most obscure interests, films like Jack Frost have found a whole new lease on life.
They have.
They're rediscovered, reevaluated, and celebrated for their unique qualities.
Right.
The very things that might have initially made them outliers.
It's almost like these films were ahead of their time,
right,
waiting for the right moment, the right audience to come along and appreciate their quirky charm.
And in the case of Jack Frost, I think it's that blend of horror, comedy, and sheer absurdity that continues to attract viewers.
I think so, too.
It's a film that knows exactly what it is.
Yeah.
A fun, over-the-top romp through the dark side of winter.
It is.
It doesn't try to be anything more, and that's part of its appeal.
It's like a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
A reminder that sometimes it's okay to just let loose and enjoy a movie that doesn't take itself too seriously.
Right.
And let's be honest, in a world that can often feel overwhelming, there's something cathartic about watching a killer snowman wreak havoc on a small town.
There's a certain escapism to it.
Yeah.
A sense of liberation in embracing the absurd.
Right.
The ridiculous. Yeah. The downright silly.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the frosty world of Jack Frost,
all right,
I want to leave you with this thought.
Okay.
Despite its flaws, its low budget, its questionable special effects, Jack Frost is a film that has something to offer everyone.
It does.
It's a reminder that entertainment can come from the most unexpected places.
It can.
That limitations can breed creativity. And that sometimes the most memorable films are the ones that dare to be different.
If Jack Frost teaches us anything, it's that even a killer snowman can melt our hearts.
If you're looking for a film that will make you laugh, scream, and question your sanity all at the same time, then give Jack Frost a watch. You might be surprised at what you find beneath the surface of this cult classic.